Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashif Kamran, ACCA expert tutor for AAA. Audit for less complex entities, or the international standard on audit for less complex entity, has been published. Today is the 29th of August 2025. 48 hours later, we have the ACCA September 2025 exams commencing. And there is a new article by the AAA examining team by the title of Audit for Less Complex Entity. It's a pretty simple article to understand and pretty simple definition to understand what is a less complex entity and how to perform the audit. But we have to go through it so that each one of you appearing for September 25 exams and onwards is very well versed with this article. Now, this article has been published under the syllabus area D, and the syllabus area D basically has a title, Planning and the Conduct of the Audit of Historical Financial Statement. So, the syllabus area D and the importance of syllabus area D, which is about planning and which is about the audit of the historical financial statement. We'll see the exam focus because if it is under syllabus area D, will it be examined in the question number one? I'll be spending a good enough time on the exam focus to identify where it could be examined. Okay, let's open the discussion on audit for less complex entity. You can download the article from the website under the syllabus area D and read it. I have just made a summary for this for presentation. Okay, first thing, the ISA for LCE. The ISA is the International Standards on Auditing for LCE, less complex entities. Please become familiar with this jargon because that's been used in the examiner article too. So ISA for LCE, why it has been introduced, why there is an ISA on LCE, because we have international standards on audit, right, which tells us how to audit organizations or how to audit companies. But why there was a specific need for getting an ISA for LCE? Following an extensive consultation process, the IAASB has issued the ISA for less complex entity as a standalone auditing standard, which contains all necessary requirements to allow auditor to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements for the LCE are free from material misstatement. Now, this ISA for the LCE is becoming a standalone ISA. Now, that's quite important, right? That it is a standalone ISA. That's something very, very important. So that's the standalone auditing standard for the LCEs, which will help the auditor obtain a reasonable assurance that the financial statements for the LCE are free from material misstatement. Now, all the guidance and how would you perform the audit of an LCE is given under one ISA. So this one ISA would become the proper document if you are doing audit of LCE anywhere in the world. Next, the examining team article on ISA for LCE focus on the following elements. And from the exam perspective, definitely the following elements will be important. Number one element, purpose and the objective of the ISA for LCE. We'll see that. Purpose and the objective. Number two, when the ISA for LCE can be used. When can we use the ISA for LCE? Now, for that reason, we should know who are LCE, who are less complex entities. What is the definition of the less complex entities? Because that is the only way we know when the ISA for LCE can be used. So we'll get through that definition process. We'll get through the exemplary process of what are LCE. So we can apply this particular standalone ISA to those entities. And lastly, what are benefits of using this ISA for LCE? There is an exam focus too, which I will be covering very specifically. So there are four things. Exam focus is the fourth element, which you can't see on the screen currently. So let's first start with the purpose and the objectives of this ISA for LCE. Then let's look at the definition of an LCE specifically, and then what are benefits of this ISA for LCE. Purpose and objective for the ISA for LCE. Let's first go down with the purpose. This is the purpose on your screen. The ISA was developed to provide a global solution to the concern about the length, complexity, and understandability of the ISAs and their application to the audit of LCE. There was a growing concern, right, about the length and complexity and understandability of the ISA and their application to the LCE. We are talking about the existing ISAs, right? We are talking about the existing ISAs before the ISA for LCE. Because the existing ISAs are made for every organization, large organizations, complex organizations, listed companies. Now, when you look at those particular ISAs, which have loads and loads of requirements and loads of auditor responsibility, and you start to apply those particular ISAs to a less complex entity or to a small company or to a family-run business, that was quite challenging. And there was no clarity from IAASB. How can we tailor those ISAs to LCE? How can we shorten those ISAs to LCE? So on and so forth. So we were using those complex ISAs on even the LCEs because there was no clarification. Now, with the ISA for LCE, we have a standalone ISA looking into how to audit the LCEs. So this particular ISA has been brought in to provide a global solution to the concerns of the stakeholder, concerns of the audit firms globally, because it was very challenging for the audit firms to audit LCE with those complex auditing standards. So that's the purpose, right, of introducing it. Let's look at the objective. What's the objective of the ISA for LCE? Number one objective, proportionate and tailored. You're introducing an ISA, you're introducing a standalone ISA, which is proportionate to the size of LCE, which is tailored to the size of LCE. Let's look at what's written. The IAASB has stated that the ISA for LCE has been designed to ensure that the audit procedures to be carried out are appropriate to the size and complexity of the entity under audit. So they have made specific tailoring to the procedures. They made specific tailoring to the procedure considering the size and scalability of LCE. So they've given you a standalone ISA. The standard provides practical guidance to demonstrate how audit procedures can be applied to a less complex environment. Definitely, we're not looking at the whole ISA here. We're looking at the examiner article and the extracts of the examiner article because that's how it will be examined in the AAA paper. So definitely, one of the objective of this ISA is proportionate and tailored according to the size and complexity of an LCE. So the procedures have been tailored down. The procedures have been brought down according to the size and complexity of the organization in focus. And then the standard provides the practical guidance of how these procedures can be applied. Because again and again, we are saying this is a standalone ISA. So it's giving everything at one place. So proportionate and tailored, number one. Number two, emphasis on a risk-based approach. Now, we know audit is a risk-based approach, whether we're doing audit for listed companies or complex companies or audit of a specialized industry, or we're doing audit for LCE. The approach remains the same. So the ISA for LCE has not changed the approach of audit, has not changed the methodology for audit. It's still a risk-based approach that you will at the planning stage identify the risky areas within the financial statement of an LCE. And when you go to the audit, you will pay particular attention to those risky areas. You will be more skeptical in those risky areas. So just like you do a normal audit, you will focus on risky areas and you will allocate resources or you will allocate your skepticism to the risky areas within the financial statement. So that's how the audits are basically done, right? Number three, audit documentation requirement. We know the documentation requirement is very challenging when you look at the ISA 230, which is the current ISA looking at the working papers. But that sort of a guidance on working paper was too much for LCE. So under this standalone ISA, they have given us the revised documentation requirements, which is to be followed when you are doing audit of an LCE. So you're not following the ISA 230 for documentation. You are following this particular ISA for the documentation and for the working paper needs of an LCE, which is far less than when you're auditing like a listed company or complex organization. So what are three objectives? Number one objective, it's tailored and proportionate. Number two, we have a risk-based audit in place, just like before. And number three, we have documentation requirements, which are far lesser than what we had in ISA 230. So gone with purpose and objective. Now, the more important thing of this article coming up. When ISA for LCE can be used? On which organizations can we apply this? Which organizations fall under the definition of an LCE? Now, to clarify what an LCE is, the examining team article has covered three aspects of it. Number one, specific prohibitions. They have first given us specific prohibitions, exclusions. Which organizations are excluded from the definition of LCE? So that is the first thing they've told us. For example, listed company. They say listed company can never be an LCE. They told us that a group cannot be an LCE. So they've given us some specific exclusions. So in the exam, if you find a listed company, the listed company can never be an LCE, right? Or a group cannot be an LCE. Or any public interest entity like insurance companies or banking companies, they cannot be LCE. So specific exclusions have been given to make the subject matter more clarified. So specific prohibitions, right? Which companies can't be LCE at all. Then qualitative characteristics. They have given us some qualitative characteristics to judge which companies in the exam can be classified as LCE. And then definitely the quantitative thresholds, quantitative characteristics, thresholds. So they have qualitative characteristics to judge, a student to judge that a given company is an LCE, or a quantitative characteristic or a threshold to judge that this is a LCE. But specific exclusions are important because they can never be LCE. Just let's look at a list of specific exclusions. Number one, specific prohibitions, the company which can't be LCE. Number one, a listed company. So in the exam, a listed company can never be an LCE. Number two, an entity which has a public interest characteristic, such as a financial institution like a banking company or provider of insurance. So provider of insurance, a financial institution can never be a LCE. And number three, a group where any of the group companies fall into the two categories listed above. So if a group is listed, because it says fall into the two categories above. So if a group is listed, where a group or any of the group company, right? It's not just the group or any of the group company is listed or has a public interest characteristic, like is a banking company, is a provider of insurance, then that particular group cannot be an LCE, right? Or, look at this word or here, where component auditors are involved. Now, if the group is audited by more than one auditor, you have a component auditor. You all know who are component auditors, right? We're not going into that discussion. So where a component auditor is involved, that would also not be an LCE. So a group which is listed, a group which has public interest characteristics, or a group where component auditors are involved. That means one or more than one subsidiary is being audited by a component auditor, by another auditor. The only exception here is when the component auditor involvement is limited to circumstances in which a physical presence is needed for a specific audit procedure for the group audit. For example, the inventory count. Though this, we are stretching our discussion here unnecessarily, but just to give you an example, we know a group which is listed, a group which has public interest characteristics will never fall in LCE, or where component auditors involved would not fall in LCE. However, there is an exception. The exception is that there is a group and you are the auditor of the group, and for all the subsidiaries of the group, right? One of the subsidiary is located in another country, and you don't have any component auditor, right, for that. But the group auditor decides that for a subsidiary which is located in a foreign country, instead of we going there for doing the inventory count, we can hire an auditor from that country, and we can ask that auditor from that country to go and do the inventory count on our behalf. Now, you have just used another auditor for the sake of inventory count. So if you are using a component auditor for a limited purpose, then this definition that a group is excluded from LCE will not apply. Is that clear to all of you? Read out the exception, right? The only exception here is that when the component auditor involvement is limited to circumstances in which a physical presence is needed for a specific purpose, specific audit procedure. So as a group auditor, you asked another auditor in a country where the subsidiary is located that can you just perform inventory count procedures on our behalf, because it will be very difficult for us to be there performing inventory count procedures. Now that's quite a specific use, a very limited use of a component auditor. Apart from that, you are the auditor for the whole group and you are performing the audit of the whole group, right? Is that clear to all of you in the specific prohibitions? Are you all sound and clear? Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, just let's move on from specific prohibitions to the qualitative side, which can help you in exam to decide whether the given company is an LCE or not. Okay, qualitative characteristics. We have excluded some companies, but now let's see some qualitative characteristics on which basis we can decide in exam that this company is an LCE. Number one, industry and business model. Number one. Now, we've already talked about industry like financial industry, insurance industry. You know, there is an article of the Examiner, very old article, audit of audit of specialized industries. I hope you've all read that article, audit of a specialized industries, right? Now, if you have read that article, audit of a specialized industry, now you know who are specialized industries. Banking, airline, those examples are already given there, right? So audit of the specialized industry is one example given by the examining team when we're talking about industry and business model. So those industries given in the specialized industry article cannot be LCE, less complex entities. Industry has to be simple, a simple industry, a non-complex industry, and they have few revenue streams and pretty simple revenue streams. So if the industry is complex, a student will ask, which industry is complex? Have we taken examples of the complex industries? Agriculture, banking, finance, insurance, even the airline industries. These are all examples given in the article Audit of a Specialized Industry. So if the industry is complex, so the company will not be considered as an LCE. I hope you're clear on that. And if a company has multiple revenue streams, complex revenue streams, it will never be considered as an LCE. But if the company have few revenue streams or one revenue stream, it will be considered as LCE. You can judge this yourself, right? Complexity. When the industry is complex, the company cannot be an LCE. Or when revenue streams are complex, The company cannot be an LCE, less complex entities. Number two, organizational structure. The organizational structure has to be simple, and you have a small management team, owner managed company, a family business, simple structures, small management teams. You don't have that tall organization with a lot of hierarchies coming in. You know, tall organizations are very complex. Tall organizations have so many hierarchies coming in, so many departments, so many functions coming in. So it's a simple structure and a small management team. So in the exam, if you find an organization which has a simple structure to judge and small management team to judge, you will consider that organization as an LCE. Ownership structure, clear and simple ownership. So the ownership structure is not very complicated, like you have governance in place, you have NEDs in place, you have audit committees in place, risk committees in place, you have many directors, CEOs, CMOs, COOs, CFOs. You know, such a structure exists in larger listed companies, right? So if you have a lot of executive officers, CEOs, chief marketing officer, CMO, chief operating officer, COO, CFO, you have a lot of board of directors, you have proper NEDs in place, then that makes the structure very complex. It has to be clear, simple, mostly sole proprietor, owner managed business falls under the LCE, or very small organizations. We have a terminology, right? SME, small medium enterprises. Finance function, centralized, few staff involved. So your finance function is very simple. You have a centralized finance function which works under the commands of the head office, and you have very few staff in the finance function. So centralized and few staff involved. You have to pick this up from the case study. IT systems. The IT systems are like non-complex. You are using mostly off-the-shelf package. Uh, Probably no bespoke softwares in your organizations, mostly off-the-shelf, very basic IT infrastructure you have in place. Even if you're using some softwares, the softwares are mostly off-the-shelf, not the bespoke ones, right? So you have to see the scenario. You have to see the scenario for the business model to choose whether the given company is an LCE or not. You have to see the organizational structure. You have to see the ownership structure. You have to see the finance function. You have to see the IT system in the scenario to judge. You know, judgment is a very important skill in AAA. So you have to judge on the basis of the characteristics given to you to conclude whether the given organization is an LCE or not. Just like you judge uh, whether the component is a significant component or not in the ISO 600 revised. You know, ISO 600 revised contains the qualitative characteristics. You also judge whether a component is a significant one or not. So that's the same thing you're doing here. Financial reporting, less complex financial reportings, uh, less judgments involved in financial reporting, less estimates, less use of management estimates in the financial statements, simple accounting estimates being used it, not complex one, or less, or sorry, non-complex accounting standards are used. We know there are certain accounting standards that are very complex, like ICE 19, employee benefits, deferred taxation. They're very complex accounting standards, right? So simple accounting standards being used in, simple accounting estimates being used in, and limited judgments being used in the preparation of the financial statements. Is everyone clear with the qualitative characteristics? Joy, can you please stop removing, can you just please remove this annotation from the screen? So is everyone clear with the qualitative characteristics on your screen? So in the scenario, you have to judge that is the company a less complex entity on the basis of the industry, business model, organizational structure, ownership structure, finance function, IT system, and financial reporting. But you know the specific exclusions. Those specific exclusions can never be LCE. Lastly, we have quantitative thresholds. The ISA for LCE suggests that each relevant jurisdiction, each relevant country should also determine appropriate quantitative thresholds such as revenue, assets, or employee to help determine the entities which classify for LCE. We know in every country there exists a definition of a small company, number of employees, assets, revenue. So each country or the regulator of each country governing the audit firms can introduce a quantitative scale that if you have, for example, if you have less than 100 employees, you will be LCE. More than 100 employees, you will not be LCE. Or if you have probably a revenue of $10 million, you will be LCE. More than $10 million, you will not be LCE. I'm just giving you examples. So you have to set a quantitative scale on a country-wise basis uh, for what constitute an LCE. So if a country introduce a quantitative threshold, then you don't need to look into the qualitative side anymore. Or in the exam, if you have been given the quantitative threshold in the scenario, and the quantitative threshold tells you in the exam that on the basis of the quantitative threshold, it is an LCE, you will not do any arguments because the quantitative thresholds will then take precedence over the qualitative threshold. Is that clear to all of you? The quantitative thresholds, if introduced by a regulator or given in the exam scenario, will take precedence over the qualitative thresholds. But if the question is silent, they're not giving you any quantitative thresholds, what will you do as a student? Will you look into the case for the qualitative characteristics, agree or disagree? Quantitative thresholds, Abdul Wahid, can be given to you on the day of exam, right? In like just like we are given the materiality sometime in the question, that materiality is $150,000. Just like the examiner can give you the quantitative threshold. But I'm saying that if the quantitative thresholds are not given, then how would you judge that a company is an LCE? On the basis of qualitative factors. Is everyone clear on that? Okay. So what makes a company LCE? We have specific prohibitions. We have covered that. So those companies can never be an LCE. Then you have to look at the qualitative characteristics in the scenario to judge whether a company is an LCE or not, and then the quantitative threshold. So if the quantitative thresholds is given by the examiner, it will be very easy for you to judge because that will be part and parcel of the scenario given. Else you have to apply the qualitative thresholds. So please, qualitative characteristics, sorry. So please assure you know them very well. Okay, now that's one aspect of it. The final aspect is to look at the benefits. What are benefits for the standalone ISA coming for less complex entities? What is the end benefit to the audit firms or to the stakeholders? Look at the benefits, four of them. The first benefit, simplification of audit and documentation. We know the audit has been made more simplified because we have a standalone ISA, which now looks for LCE, and that particular ISA has made the definition of the audit for LCE more simple and less complex. And they also guide us about a tailored approach. So we just read that in the objective earlier. So we have a tailored approach to how to do audit of an LCE, and the documentation level has gone down. So that's one benefit. So less documentations, more simpler to do the audit of an LCE because we have a standalone ISA giving us some guidance what to do and how to do. Number two, scalable and proportionate. So we have a scalable concept. We have a proportionate concept. Whatever we are doing is according to the size and complexity of the organization. Before, we used to apply the typical ISAs to even the small company. That was an extensive workload. That was quite a significant workload when we were applying those typical ISAs to even the small companies. It would have increased our workload as an auditor and definitely the fees. And even for a small company, that fees would have been very big because we were using the typical ISAs on a small company. Now we have a concept of scalable and proportionate approach. Now we will consider the audit in accordance with the size and complexity of the business because we have a standalone ISA in place. Number three, efficiency and accessibility. This is important. Reduce complexity and the time needed to complete the audit. Definitely, we were using the typical ISAs. Imagine how much time that should have taken. Even the company was small, but we're using those bulk of ISAs on the small company. Now we have a simple ISA, a standalone ISA on a small company. See how much time will go down, how much resources will go down on small company, and the fees. For a client, this is something good. For the organization, this is something good. The fee level will go down. So it reduces complexity and the time needed to complete audit, leading to cost savings and making audit more accessible to small companies. Can more and more small companies can now have audit? Small companies were not having audit because of the huge audit cost. Will this encourage small companies to go for audit now, considering we have a standalone ISA? Tell me. Will more small companies opt for audit? They were not opting for audit before because the cost of the audit was too high. Do you all agree with me? Will small companies now prefer to have audit after the introduction of this ISA for LCE? Will that reduce the cost of the audit for small companies? All of you? Right? So, efficiency and accessibility. And lastly, quality assurance and confidence. Maintain high standards to ensure reliable and thorough audits because we are still doing audit under an ISA which has been carefully developed by IAASB. We have a standalone ISA, we'll stick to it, we'll follow every guidance of it when we're doing audit of an LCE. So definitely the quality assurance will boost up. Supporting business decisions. At the end of the day, the LCE will get an audited report that will help their decision making process. It will help them take a bank loan, so on and so forth. So a new market will open for them. So small business is now in a more better position to get their financial statement audited because the cost will go down of performing the audit. And at the end of the day, you're still getting a quality assurance because you're performing the audit under an ISA. Is everyone clear with the four benefits on your screen? Is everyone clear with the four benefits on your screen? So if in the exam you get a question, uh, explain the four benefits of the ISA for LCE, will you remember that? Or if in the exam you get a question, what are qualitative factors to decide whether the company is an LCE or not? Will you remember the qualitative factors? Yes, the process of audit is the same, right? But we have just shortened it according to the size and scale of an LCE, whoever was asking that question. The process of audit, the mechanism of audit, the methodology of the audit is still the same, right? Whatever you do in the audit, but you've just shortened it up, you've just tailored it up, or you've just made it proportionate to the needs of the LCE, right? Okay. Now comes the most important thing. We talked about why this ISA was introduced. We talked about the purpose of this ISA. We talked about the objective of this ISA. We talked about the definition of an LCE, the companies which are exempt from LCE, the qualitative factors and the quantitative thresholds. And we talk about the benefits of this ISA. Now let's come to the point which is important for all of you appearing for September 25 exams and onwards. Exam focus. How this ISA on LCE will be examined in AAA. Examining team has given us guidance on that, and I will be emphasizing on it with some examples. Let's go one by one, and please raise no question till the time my discussion is completed. Listen to me, and if you still have a question, I'll answer it. But for the next 10 minutes, just listen to me. Number one exam focus mentioned by the examining team. Candidates may be asked to demonstrate what? Appropriate knowledge in relation to the purpose. What if you get a 2 marks question? What is the purpose of an ISA on LCE? Question mark, comma, content. Like what is the objective or benefits of an ISA for LCE and should be prepared to provide suitable answers. Any student who have not read this article will struggle. So if you get 2 marks for purpose, 4 marks for benefits, 4 marks for objectives, or you get definition of qualitative characteristics, you get definition of which companies are prohibited from LCE. Knowledge. We know whenever a new article comes in, whether it was ISQM 1 and 2, whether it is the article ISSA 5000 ED, whenever any new article has come in the prior history of AAA, it is tested for knowledge. So will you ensure that you have a good amount of knowledge from this presentation? Look at this thing, appropriate knowledge. So can knowledge come for 4 to 6 marks on this in September 25 exams? So easy marks. Is number 1 clear to all of you? Are you all fine with number 1? So it's just about reading the article and knowing the purpose, content, or benefits of the ISA for LCE. Okay, great. Number 2, a question focused on engagement acceptance. How many times have you seen questions on engagement acceptance in the past papers? Matters you should consider in accepting a client. Engagement acceptance, practice management, right? Syllabus area C. A question focused on engagement acceptance may ask candidates to determine if the application of the ISA for LCE would be suitable in a specific set of circumstances by considering the nature of the entity under audit. The examining team might ask you that as part of your engagement acceptance, is the application of the ISA for LCE an important factor? So you have to see the organization you are accepting. Is the organization you are accepting meets the criteria, meets the qualitative characteristics of an LCE? If a student conclude that the organization I am accepting is an LCE on the basis of the qualitative factors provided to you in the scenario, then as part of an engagement acceptance or as part of the matters to accept the engagement, one of the matter will be the ISA for LCE. One of the matter would be to make management clear that the audit will be performed on the basis of the ISA for LCE. And you can imagine when you are accepting an engagement from an LCE, one of the matter is a fees. You know, fees is a matter for engagement acceptance, right? So automatically, if you consider this is an LCE, what will be the impact on fees? Because we are applying an ISA for LCE through which we will do less work, which is more customizable, which is more tailored. So automatically our fees income will go down. We cannot charge a high fees because we are applying the ISA for LCE. Is everyone clear with the number 2 element on your screen? So a question focused on engagement acceptance can specifically ask you whether the given organization is an LCE and the application of the ISA for LCE in that answer when you're writing the methods to accept a client. So as part of the methods to accept the client, if it is an LCE, will ISA for LCE becomes a matter? Yes or no? Will ISA for LCE becomes a matter in the list? And will the fees be impacted? Will the fees be lowered down because you're applying the ISA, right? Okay, great. So you know how many times this question has come in the past papers, a question focused on engagement acceptance. Number 3. Number 3, a quality management question, section B of the paper mostly, right? A quality management question may ask candidates and to assess and critique where the standard has been inappropriately applied and the impact this may had on the work performed. Such an easy question, right? For example, in a section B, you get a quality management question and you are a manager responsible for the engagement quality control review. And you are currently performing engagement quality control review of the 2 companies, Alpha and Beta. Alpha is a listed company. Beta is a less complex entity. Now, You are performing the engagement quality control review of alpha, which has its own problems, and you're performing the engagement quality control review of beta, which has its own problems. But it is mentioned in the scenario, or you picked it up from the scenario somewhere, that beta is an LCE. So, what the question is asking, the candidates may be asked to assess and critique where the standard has been inappropriately applied. So if you picked up that beta was a LCE in a quality management question, then you had to be critical whether the ISA for LCE has been applied properly. Have you performed less procedures? Have you performed less documentation of the working papers? Have you scaled down? Have you scaled down your approach because of the LCE in place? But for example, it was an LCE and you ignored it and you performed every procedure you perform on a listed company. You did everything you do on the listed company. You applied the whole list of ISAs, the long list of ISAs, every ISA you applied, just like you applied to a listed company. Have you wasted your time? Is that a quality management issue? Has this affected your efficiency? And at the end of the day, you have utilized extra resources, you have put extra time, you have put extra effort, not knowing the fact that the company you were auditing was an LCE, and you could have saved your time, could have saved your resources, you could have improved your efficiency by completing audit quickly, and you could have utilized those resources elsewhere. Are you getting the point in number three, all of you? So can there be a situation in a quality management question where the ISA for LCE has been inappropriately applied? Or rather, you have just treated an LCE as a normal company and you have done the normal audit? So will you be critical of that, all of you? Right? And you get questions on quality management, right? You might get two companies. One company is listed, one company is less complex entity. And when you read the scenario of less complex entity, you read a statement that the audit senior was unaware of the ISA, or the audit senior has just performed the audit in a typical manner without even knowing it was we have an ISA for LCE. So will you be critical of that? Will you be considering the impact of that on the audit? So that's number three. Number four, for the purpose of exam questions, it will be made clear to the candidates where an entity will comply with any relevant quantity threshold. So if the examining team wants to give you any quantitative thresholds, they will make that very clear. They will tell you that in the country in which the company is, the regulator has introduced a quantitative threshold. For example, a revenue of $10 million, any revenue of 10 million or below will make a company LCE. So you might be given that threshold. Is that number four clear to all of you? So if the examiner wants you to use a quantitative threshold to decide is it an LCE, the examining team will give you the criteria of quantitative, number of employees, revenue, and total assets, and they will give you a definition of that in the scenario. And you will look at that definition and judge that in context of this definition, is it a LCE or not? Is that clear to all of you? And if quantitative elements are not given, then you know you have to judge it on the basis of the qualitative factors. Is four questions clear to all of you? The number one question is a knowledge question. Article reading is must. Then you have an engagement acceptance question where you have to be alert whether the company you are accepting is an LCE. If it is LCE, you have to consider very specific matters of using the ISA for LCE and the fees. In a quality management question, if you find a company which is an LCE, but you have not performed the audit of an LCE the way it should have been performed in, rather you wasted your time by applying all the ISAs, you simply need to speak of the implications. And finally, if a question is asking for the quantitative thresholds, it will be given to you by the examiner. Is that clear to all of you? Exam focus. Pretty simple ISA. Just remember the things we have discussed in the presentation today, and that is it. Just let me show you one example here. If you have seen the old papers, I'm taking them just as an example. I hope you can see them on your screen now. Please confirm me. Can you see a question in front of your screen currently? Okay. And look at this first paragraph. Can you just read it can you just read this first paragraph in a minute and tell me is this an LCE or not? Just read this paragraph quickly. I highlighted for you. Right? So is it an LCE? Is it a simple business? Is it a simple business? A non-complex business? Right? Look at further. Look at this. Look at this. Do they have a simple accounting structured finance function? Do they have very simple hierarchies in place? Look at this. Look at this paragraph. Tell me. Look at the qualitative factors you just studied. You're getting examples of those qualitative factors. Is that clear to all of you? So something like this in the scenario will help you judge the qualitative side of concluding that that it is an LCE, right? Number one. If not, examining team can be generous giving you the quantitative threshold. They mention they will give you quantitative threshold, right? So they can give you, just like they give you a materiality threshold, that materiality is $150,000. They will give you the quantitative elements of revenue, employees, and assets, and you can easily judge. That is easy for students, right? You don't need to go to the scenario and judge the qualitative factors. Look at another example. Can you see another paper in front of your screen now? Can you see another question now in front of your screen by the name of Western Company? Right? Okay. Just look at this. Just look at the highlighted paragraph and tell me, is it an LCE? The highlighted para, right? Clear? The company was just established 2 years ago, right? So in 2 years, definitely the companies are small. 2 years ago, it was just established, but have grown rapidly. But this is the first year the audit is required. So that means the company is still not big. This is the first time they're requiring audit. Look at this simple structure. Look at this. Look at this one. Look at the structure of the finance department. How simple the finance department is. And they're not using a bespoke software, they're using off-the-shelf software. I just mentioned that as an example in the qualitative factors. Is everyone clear? So there are some instances of past papers, right, which gives you hopes of LCE, owner managed business, small business, audit for the first time. Just 2 years ago, they were established. So I hope you will be capable in exam on Monday to pick a business as LCE on the basis of its qualitative factors, or else the quantitative will be given. I hope you're all well versed with this article and you have no confusions or issues with the article we have covered today on audit of less complex entity with the exam focus. I hope you will go through this presentation. This is a quick summary for Monday, and I hope this will be beneficial for all of you to cover up this article, audit for less complex entity. Is that fine for all of you? Okay. I will be sharing the recording and the presentation shortly. And if you have any particular question about this ISA, you have a WhatsApp group to put your questions in, and I'll be responding to the maximum queries over WhatsApp tomorrow on Saturday. Wish you all the very best of luck for exams on Monday, and thank you so much for participating into this life's proceedings. Take good care of yourself and study effectively. All the best for your exams. Your tutor, Kashif Kamran, signing off.